Welcome everybody, this is Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call. This is the Tuesday 8 a.m. Pacific time call happening every single Tuesday 8 a.m. except on the Pacific time, so holiday season or in the summertime. And we have Microsoft presenters in this call and we cover topics around Microsoft 365 and Power Platform. Now, specifically on this week, we do not have Power English is so hard, Power Platform topics because of the Las Vegas conference is happening. So Power Platform conference is happening in Las Vegas. So we'll have more on Microsoft 365 in here, more on Power Platform side within upcoming weeks as well. My name is Ayça Juvonen. I'm a principal product manager in Microsoft 365 platform areas and doing a lot of stuff in the community side as well across the both topics. Now, today, we'll have a similar or typical setup on the intro topics and assets, so you are up to date on what's available for you to get started on the Microsoft Cloud. And then we go to the group photo. We'll take a group photo together with those people who are willing to enable their video. And then we'll move into actual stars of the day, who's going to be Ayça Baş, Waldek, Mastykarz, and Shubham Chauhan. And so 3 demos again today on different topics around Microsoft 365 side. Now, before we go to the actual stars of the day, let's do a quick recap on all of the assets which are available for you to take advantage. These community calls, all of the demos and a lot of other stuff as well is getting published in our YouTube channel at Microsoft 365 Power Platform Community Videos YouTube channels. You want to subscribe there to stay up to date what's available. We also have our LinkedIn group for discussions and updates and really easy way of asking help or sharing your findings around the Microsoft 365 cloud topics. And we have a lot of open source assets available across the different GitHub organizations. Now, it might be a bit difficult though, find the relevant sample which relevant sample for you. And that's why we have our different sample galleries available, which are really intended to make it easy to find the relevant sample from the GitHub. There's a lot of URLs to remember, but luckily there's only one, which is the AKMS/community/home, from where you can find all of the different assets which are available. Now, we have a lot of community calls, of course. You can join all of these community calls if you're interested. You don't have to. All of the community calls are getting also recorded and published within that YouTube channel. We have a specific weekly community call, which is this one, because you are in this call, you are aware of this call, which is great. 8 a.m. Pacific time every single Tuesday, Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call. On top of this, we have the Power Platform monthly community call, Office and monthly community call, and also our Thursday 7 a.m. Pacific time series, which is either Microsoft 365 and Power Platform community call or Viva Connection and SharePoint favorite community call, 7 a.m. every single Thursday, happening throughout the year, actually, without any holiday breaks as well. Now, if you want to download any of these invites, please use AKMS/community/call, and that's the easiest way to actually find or download those invites. Now, and you can always also sign up for our meetup, where you can always find the agendas to all of these calls a bit advanced. So typically we publish the agenda details week before the call, so you can easily stay up to date on what's actually coming within the next week. So you can prioritize your time as needed. Now, some of these calls are Microsoft-led calls or Microsoft demos. Some of these calls are actually community demo calls. So we do welcome you as a presenter within these calls. And the easiest way to sign up for a demo slot, which are 50 minutes within all of those individual calls, is to fill in this form at https AKMS/community/request/demo. So a lot of forward slashes over there, but it's a relatively easy URL to remember. Fill in that form. We will contact you and get you scheduled in the right call, which is suitable based on the topic what you're suggesting to present. This is the topic itself doesn't have to be rocket science. It doesn't have to be anything super like never be seen before stuff. No, we're looking for your learnings, your solutions. You built something, show it to everybody else, and let's talk about it. What are the things what you built is really the day-to-day things what we want to show within those calls. Now, there's a lot of assets available for you to get started on the Microsoft 365 Cloud. You want to register to the Microsoft 365 or sign up for the Microsoft 365 Developer Program. You will get a free E5 Developer tenant, which will renew automatically in every single 90 days as long as you use it for developer purposes. There's a lot of assets available for the Power Platform and Microsoft 365 topics as well within our Microsoft Learning paths. We also have a lot of podcasts and video blogs available, which are released typically in a weekly basis or bi-weekly basis. So we have have our PMP Weekly show, which is happening on a weekly basis. We have the latest episodes going out today. That's hosted by me and Waldek Mastykarz. We also have the Mondays at Microsoft, hosted by Caruana and Heather, which is a live streamed event in LinkedIn, happening typically bi-weekly on Mondays. We also have the Power Platform Connections, hosted by David Warner and Hugo Bernier, and then the Microsoft 365 Developer Podcast, hosted by Jeremy Thake, Ayça Baş, and Paul Schaffelin, depending a bit on the topic on that call. Now, I did mention that we have a lot of samples available for you to take advantage. So the key point here is that there's a lot of already done work in some of these samples. So don't start from scratch. Have a look on what's available. If somebody else has built something really cool, and you can take inspiration from those other samples which are available within the GitHub. We have actually more than 1,740 samples available. I forgot about updating that stamp. So we're going to break 1,750 pretty soon on those samples. Every single day, typically, or multiple samples within a week is getting published from this one centralized location, making it super easy for you to stay up to date on all of the things which are available for you to be more efficient within your work. Now, as you find the sample, you might be wondering okay, so I'm a bit confused. How would I actually start using that? Or if you're not familiar with GitHub, or if you would want to volunteer to present in some of these calls, but you don't feel that you are more yet experienced enough on doing that, we got you covered. So we have our Sharing is Caring initiative, which is hosted by our crew. And within these sessions, which are not recorded, we are giving you guidance and instructions on how to be more, how to succeed within your tasks. So as an example, you might even get a presenter buddy if you don't feel comfortable by presenting by yourself, but if we would actually do a co-presenting session with somebody else. There are a lot of these are getting scheduled more in October. Today and the week before today actually have been pretty busy because of the Power Platform Conference happening in Las Vegas, and that's why the typical crew, as said, as we started, is not available in this call either. But that crew will be setting up a lot of Sharing is Caring initiatives within upcoming weeks. Now, as you then participate or contribute and learn to be part of the community, we want to actually award you on those contributions. So we want to celebrate you and give you badges and acknowledgements on being part of this community. And as part of the latest things, we are adding the Pumpkin Spice Latte commits, which is related on more maybe a US-based approach on things. In Europe, we don't actually do pumpkin spice lattes that much. And the Hacktoberfest is also happening in October. So those are really good examples of the new batches which are coming up. There's other batches as well. So based on your contributions, we want to recognize you. We want to celebrate you being part of the community. And you just need to fill in the form at AKMS/community/recognition. So we're able to actually give you the form on that. Now, one way of getting involved in the community is also our events. So the Chicago 365 EduCon is happening still in October 13th to November 3rd. One way of meeting up people and catching up what's happening within the Microsoft Cloud. We also have the Power Platform Conference, which is happening right now at Las Vegas. I think the keynote is just starting at the same moment as we are, or it might be starting in 45 minutes. Anyway, if you are close by, you can still make it in Las Vegas and you can have participate there as well. Now, if you cannot make Las Vegas, please join us on Ignite, or that's one way of being part of the community or joining the community events. Ignite is a hybrid setup. You can be on site at Seattle, or you can participate on Ignite remotely as well. So we will be actually having online dates from November 15th to 16th, but there are in Seattle in-person dates from November 14th to 17th. So a bit of a different dates there to provide extra value for those who are present in online. We also wanted to actually remind everybody, April 13th, 2024 is the first day of the Microsoft 365 conference, and this time happening at Orlando, Florida, 2024. So you probably want to put that in your calendar, or if you have budgeting happening within your company, please take a note. That's going to happen in April 13th to May 1st and 2nd. And there's going to be pre-workshops and pre-day workshops and post-day workshops as well. Great opportunities for staying up to date what's happening within the community and the technology as well. Now, on top of these primary events, so to say, we have a lot of smaller events are happening all around the world. Some of these are paid events, some of these are free events, depending on the event details. You want to go to the communitydays.org, from where you can actually find all of the details, what's happening. And there probably is a close-by event closer to you. So if you're looking into staying up to date, you don't have the opportunity to maybe travel to another country or another location, and check out all of these events which are available and join them to meet up the other community members as well. Now, on the quick recap on the news from Microsoft side, a lot of stuff, especially on the Microsoft 365 developer side. That's that small squeeze on the right side, because I was running out of space on the slide. But a lot of news over there. I'm not going to go through all of them, but there's a cute set of great news and updates coming from Microsoft last week. I'm going to paste in all of those news within the chat. So if you're interested on catching up on some of them, please have a look and stay up to date on what's happening, depending on your interest and topic. Now, before we go to the group photo, let's also recap what's the latest on the Microsoft 365 platform side. And Surpi is here to cover that today. Surpi, take it away. Or maybe not. Oh, yes. Or
Thank you, Vesa.
There we go. Excellent. Good.
Hi. Yeah. Thank you, Vesa. Hi, everyone. So we do have two updates today. Firstly, as you may be aware, the read receipts setting in Teams allows the sender of a chat message to be notified when their message was read by the recipient in a one-on-one or group chat. When the recipient reads the message, the C icon appears next to the message. Similarly, now you can also configure your bot to receive read receipt events through the read receipt settings. So do try it out. Second, you can create a bot to enable the bot configuration settings for the user during the bot installation and also from the channel or group chat scope after the bot is installed. This feature is currently in developer preview, so we'd love to hear your feedback. If you have any feedback or suggestion, please post on aka.ms Teams platform feedback. The link is available in the footer. You could also configure to the RSS feed to get regular platform updates. Thank you. Over to you, Vesa.
Excellent. Thank you, Surpi, on that one. And next, we're going to have the group photo within the Together mode in Teams with those who are willing to enable their video. This time, the pixelation seems to be in order. So this is really good. Everybody is looking sharp. Hopefully we'll be sharp all the way through when we are recording this. We do have 50 seats in the room. A lot of people, familiar faces there. Hey, Fabian, already waving hands, getting used to this. Let's wait for a while. I can see a lot of other familiar faces in the room. Few more seats in the room. Few more seats. Let's see if we can get that. Waldek, you're in the middle. You have to be an example. You go, there we go. Few more seats, 20 seconds. Excellent, Waldek. And I will put the recording on. We're not yet recording, but we are recording 3, 2, 1. And here we go. Let's do some hand waving, everybody. Hand waving. Thank you for joining. Thank you. Awesome to see familiar faces in the call. Excellent. Thank you, Fabian, for whoop, whoop. Really cool. Excellent. That's really good. We're going to do a GIF animation out of that. I'm going to share it in LinkedIn and in social media. Now, then it's time to actually do the real stars of today. And we'll start with Ayça Baş, then go to Waldek, and then Shubham as the last demo. Definitely not the least demo of today. But Ayça, I think you are ready to go.
Thanks, Vesa. Let me share my screen.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yep, all good. Take it away.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. The first session of the day is about using AI, communication, and organizational data in a business app. And this is actually a multi-series session where Dan Waldin is leading, and today I'm just a supporting person for his sessions. Trying to move to the next slide. Yes. Okay. So in today's session, we will be using Azure OpenAI and GPT prompts to generate completions for email and SMS messages. And specifically, we will be using Azure OpenAI, and by giving just 2-3 lines of description, we will be creating the entire email and SMS messages. This wasn't the only session. If you missed the previous sessions, Dan covered about integrating OpenAI, creating Azure OpenAI resources, or using Azure OpenAI and GPT prompts to convert natural language to a SQL. You can check the community YouTube channel to understand more about those sessions. We have more of these coming up. Today we will be covering the completions for email and SMS. And the next week, we will be talking about how you can bring your data using cognitive search and Azure OpenAI. And we have more sessions related to communication features, such as creating ACS resource for your solution, or making a phone call, or sending an SMS or email. Stay tuned for those sessions coming up. And finally, we will be showing you how you can bring organizational data into your apps, leveraging from Microsoft Graph and Azure OpenAI service. Let me quickly show you a demo Dan recorded earlier, just to recap what we are covering in the app. What are the overall functionalities? Let me play the video. So we can mainly choose one of the items and see the relevant content about it. We can create a chat message. We can create a new chat, or we can view the emails. We can see all the related calendar items or files. And we can choose any other one and create the same experience for any of the other ones. We can run the query and we can get the related customer data related to our query. And finally, we can contact the customer. We can either call the customer and this will bring the phone number, or we can actually create email or SMS for the customer. This part is the part we will be creating today, or I will show you how you can create it. But just giving a couple of lines of messages, mainly the rules. We can generate the email and SMS by using Azure OpenAI, and we can send the email and SMS by just clicking to it. Okay, so we're moving to the real part. Let me switch to Visual Studio if I can. Nope. And maybe I should end the slideshow. Yeah, this will work. Okay, so first of all, our app has two parts, one client and one server. And server is in TypeScript. Currently, I'm running the app. Let me move this here. Currently, I'm running the client side and also the server side, and we are running Docker behind the scenes. To have the OpenAI experience in the server side, we are actually calling, let me quickly show you, complete email SMS messages. Before maybe I jump into how things work behind the scenes, I will show you how the app looks like in real. Exactly the same way that Dan recorded earlier, I'm logged in with my email and I can contact the customer by just selecting either call customer, or if you want to try out the Azure OpenAI experiences, you can click email SMS customer. You can give some of the examples. For example, order is delayed for 2 weeks, and maybe make jokes where appropriate. I'm sure customers will not like that, but let's see. And this is using Azure OpenAI behind the scenes. And we are actually returning the data in JSON. I'll show you in a minute. But this automatically creates everything for us, all of the content. And you can go back and change the way you would like to see how you want to create email or SMS. So this is the experience we are creating, and here's how we are doing this. First of all, in the server side, in the API routes.ts, we are creating complete email SMS messages. This function calls complete email SMS messages function. Let's quickly go to this function. So here, what we are providing to Azure OpenAI service is the system message. And system message covers all the information about this app. For example, Assistant is a bot designed to help users create email and SMS messages from data and return a JSON object. And we have a couple of rules how we would like to carry on and get the response. And here we again highlight that we only want to return JSON object. And again, here we highlight that we just want to return JSON object, but believe me, sometimes it doesn't work. So just to make sure that it's returning JSON, we are actually running some manual functions behind the scenes too. But this is actually the system prompt, and we get the user prompt as well from the user, depending on what rules they would like to apply for the email or SMS. And finally, we are calling Open AI with the system prompt and user prompt. Let's quickly check the OpenAI as well. In OpenAI, we have different keys that we can use. In our case, we are using Azure OpenAI, but we are not bringing our own data yet. This is the next week's topic if you are interested. Today, we are only running Azure OpenAI, and this app works with the public OpenAI key too, if you're interested. But in our case, it's using Azure OpenAI. Let's go to the Azure OpenAI completion. And here's the part where we call the API endpoint and get the response. And as I mentioned earlier, I specifically mentioned that sometimes it doesn't return JSON. It returns in different formats. Even though we provide that in the system prompt, sometimes we need to extract the JSON data. And this is what we're doing here, specifically if we get a response in JSON format or not in JSON format, we're checking that. And we are extracting the JSON. And finally, after returning the extract JSON function, this is where you see the user SMS or email experiences. This is what I wanted to share today, and a couple more slides how you can try this experience by yourself. This is actually a workshop. You can start from scratch and build by yourself, and you can try out this app. And this is available in the Microsoft Cloud page. And as you can see, all of the steps showing in this document is actually a session in the community calls in the upcoming weeks. And if you're interested in, as I mentioned, trying out yourself, you can scan the QR code or go to ak.ms/openai-acs-msgraph. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me or Dan Wahlin to learn more and get unlocked about your blockers. That's all I wanted to share with you today. Thanks for having me. And I can answer some questions in the chat.
Excellent. Thank you, Ayça. Really, really cool. That is such a cool solution, and there's so many cool pieces within the solution. There's a link in the chat for those who are watching on the chat side, and there was an AKMS address in Ayça's slide as well. Awesome job. Thank you, Ayça, on that one. Now, let's then move into the next demo of today. Waldek, Mastykarz, is here to talk about the latest on the Microsoft 365 developer Proxy. And I think we don't need to even know what it is. And Waldek is going to provide us enough context on explaining what it is and what's the benefit out of the Proxy as well. Right, Waldek?
Totally. Most important part of the day. Can you see my screen?
Absolutely, we can see the screen. The small white one text are pretty small, but the big one is, yeah, we can see.
You mean the ones on the tab?
Yeah,
above?
those are tabs.
That is irrelevant.
Yeah,
that is irrelevant.
Exactly.
Don't pay attention. It's not there. Excellent. All right. So first things first. In probably every single app that we build these days, we use APIs, right? These APIs will fail. That's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. They will fail because that's just, physics. You connect to something on a network, something you don't own. Well, they can fail due to issues on network, DNS, connectivity, resources, whatever. So best assume they will fail. What can you do about it? Well, the one thing is assume that they will fail and build your app in resilient way so that it can deal with these issues and will not fail miserably, right? It will not lose the data of the customers who use your app. The most important part is you don't own these APIs. So how do you test that your app will not miserably break? Because again, how can you force failure, for example, on Microsoft Graph or any other API in a cloud? You can't, because again, you don't own them. And it's not like you can call us at Microsoft and say, hey, guys, I'm testing my app. Could you please fail it for an hour or so that I can test my code? It doesn't work that way, right? So you need to have a way that you can simulate errors and different behaviors of cloud APIs. And that is exactly what Microsoft 365 Developer Proxy allows you to do, right? So think of it like, what is it? Think Fiddler, but then intelligent, right? So it's not only meant to allow you to inspect what's going over the wire, but it also triggers behaviors on APIs that you use in your app so that you can test different conditions that will occur eventually when you launch your app, right? So two goals that it has is one, to help you build better apps. The customers and the users of your app will appreciate it. Two, it also speeds up the development, and you will see exactly why. So first things first, right? It is a command line tool that you run. I am on a Mac, but it works exactly the same way on Windows or in Linux, right? So when you start it, let's start it with that, and let me also immediately say that I want to fail every single call it goes through, because like for a demo that is cool. Like we don't want to wait. We want to see every single call fail, right? So the first things first, we talked about cloud APIs failing. Right. So one thing that you can do with the proxy is introduce chaos to your app. And what's really cool, you don't need to change anything about your app. And it works with any type of app. It works with PowerShell, .NET, JavaScript, whatever platform you've got, whatever type of app you've got, because it is a proxy and it works on the network stack, right? So it basically looks at the requests that go over the wire, and it's not really looking at whether it's coming from a TypeScript code or JavaScript code or whatever. So that makes it really, really cool and really easy to use, right? So to make things really clear, let me show you basically the demos on curl, but it works exactly the same way on any kind of web request that you issue from your app. Okay, so cool. Let's say we want to see like how. Like imagine we want to call graph. We want to see how it would help us simulate issues on graph. So let's say here I'm going to call graph to get info about me as a user, and I want to route this call through a proxy. And here we go. I simulate now a 503 error. Like the actual graph works. This call has never reached graph. Proxy, being kind of the middleman between my app, curl in this case, and the cloud, introduces this error, allowing me to test my code against this error. If I call it again, I will get another one, right? Because right now, I will get a 504, right? So right now, proxy is used in a mode that is going to introduce random errors. And that's really cool because I can test different edge cases that, again, will happen eventually. It's just a matter of when, not if. So again, you need to secure your code against that. Right, so that is like one way to use it, but it's not just the only thing, right? Like, and the Microsoft 365 developer proxy does a number of things. Another cool thing is that it allows you to test if your app uses minimal scopes that it needs for the things that it needs to do, right? Because one of the things that we see time and again is that developers ask for more permissions than they need. And that isn't weird per se, because like if you think about it, how do you build your app? Well, you start with one API call, then you add another one, add another one, and for each of those, like you go to our docs, you get the info about the scopes that you need, and you just add them to your app. But who's to say that for the collection of API calls that you use in your app, maybe there is a smaller scope or smaller set of scopes that you could use to access them? Right, but it's really hard now to, like, every single time you add an API call, to go through your whole app, all API calls, and then see, do I use the minimal scopes or not? You can do it way easier with the Microsoft 365 developer proxy, and let me show you exactly how. So first, let me see if that is enabled. Let me go to proxy and let me go to its config. I think I've already have it enabled here. Right, so proxy has a config file where you can basically pick and choose which features you want to use. So here you see all the list of all the different things that you can use, and we are specifically interested in one named Minimal Permissions Guidance Plugin. It is a mouthful, but it does some really cool stuff. So we can see that it's enabled. Let's run it in practice and let's see how it works. So again, we go back to proxy. We want to fail everything. That part isn't really relevant to us. But let's do that. Let's start the recording. This important part. We want to keep track of all the different calls that we issue to Graph. And then also another thing that I have to do, I need to get an access token. Do I need to add access token? Yes, I need to have an access token because again, I want to see, is my access token properly scoped for the different APIs that I want to use, or does it have more? So in this case, let me get access token from the CLI from Microsoft 365 and store it in a variable. 321, it should be there. All right, and I can verify that it's there. It will be a really long string. Perfect, it's there. And now let me call Microsoft Graph with a token. So let me do exactly the same call to me. 321, okay, it will fail. That is irrelevant. And let me do another one to users. All right, so now we issue 2 calls to Microsoft Graph, to /me and to users. Let's see if the access token that we got was properly scoped for these 2 calls. So now if we stop the recording, now we will see evaluating delegated permissions for me and the users. Apparently, the minimal scopes that I need for these 2 calls is user basic all. Check out this. These are all the different scopes that I've got on my token. That's a lot, isn't it? Here's the list of all scopes that I don't need on a token. How cool is that, right? So in just a second, all I had to do was to click through my app. Imagine that, right? Click through my app to use the different parts of the app. Have Proxy record these calls, and then just in a second tell me, am I using the right scopes, the minimal scopes, or not? And that is a super valuable thing to do because again, in a second, it allows you to make your app more robust and avoid requesting unnecessary scopes, right? Everybody loves that, right? So that is really cool because it doesn't come at a cost of, tremendous effort that you have to do every day as you build your app, right? So these are 2 things that I think are really, really cool. So with that, I hope that you have a good idea of what Microsoft 365 Developer Proxy is. 1, it allows you to simulate different types of behavior on cloud APIs, and it's any API. In this case, you've seen Microsoft Graph, but we can emulate any API, GitHub API, recent API, any cloud, or even your own APIs that you build, right? We can simulate any API. So 1, simulate behaviors and APIs, and 2, get contextual guidance for the different things that you do. So these are really cool things to have available in Toolbox. Just the other week, we released version 0.12 with some new abilities, and there are a few things that I'd like to show you in practice, right? So first one, and that is exactly why we are in Microsoft Graph connector. So 1 is the ability, and there's also the ability that you've got in Proxy to mock a response. Like you call an API endpoint, and you always want to have the same response back. And that is invaluable if you do things like tests. If you also do a demo on things that is based on time-sensitive stuff. So imagine that you want to that you build an app that shows the files user recently used. Well, in order for you to have the data, somebody needs to go and use the files every single time you're doing a demo. That doesn't really sound efficient, right? What's really cool is that with the mocks that you put in Proxy, you can emulate that, right? So you can say like every single time the app is going to try to get the data about files that have been used, just give this thing back. So you can do the work once, click once, record all these calls, get them in Proxy, and then from that point on, you can just use the mocks back. And they have exactly the same shape as the real data you would get from the Microsoft Graph or any other API. So that makes it not really efficient to prepare the demos, but also to develop. Because then again, like it's not like everybody on the team will need to do their own, clicking around, generating the activity just to be able to have the data back, right? So that is really cool. Now, the caveat is sometimes you want to call the same URL 2 or 3 times and get a different response back. And one case of that is when you create a connector, right? And for it, you create a schema. That is a long-running operation, right? So you create a schema and you get back a URL with operation or a URL that allows you to check the status of the operation. And it's like for a few times it's going to be in progress, in progress, in progress, and at some point it will be done. And if you build an app, if you build code that does that, you might want to emulate that, right? So let's see how that works. I've got here a mock that basically illustrates that in practice, right? So here I've got a call to create a connection. Here is the call that I've got. Let me wrap the lines to make it easier to read. Here is exactly the call that I mentioned, right? I create a schema for a connection. And in here, I'm getting back a response with the URL. Call this URL to get the state of creating schema. And the first time I'm going to call it is going to be in progress. It's going to be in progress, but at some point, and it's the same URL, but at some point I want it to be done. Because I have piece of code that needs to go through that part. So that's the cool thing, that now from v0.12, we can now emulate it. So we can say with this and attribute here, we can say the second time you call the same URL, return the response that you've got here as opposed to here. Let's see this in action. So let me start Proxy with mocks file, Microsoft Graph Connector JSON. And just to make it easy, let me split screen again, and let me just call directly the operation here. Because there is no need for us to call all of these URLs. So I want to do curl. I want to route it. I don't need an access token because it's going to be mocked anyway. So this, right? So the first call we get back the response in progress. Now we're going to do another call and complete it. There you go, right? So this matches exactly the same thing. We haven't changed anything about the URL, but now we have the ability to mock nth call, second, third, fourth, whatever you want it to be, to have basically the different response on the same API call. And that gives you a lot of abilities to simulate different behaviors on the APIs, right? Another thing that I want you to see is the latency. Oftentimes, that the APIs that we use, again, they're in the cloud, right? So you cannot really tell how efficiently will they work. Sometimes they are blazing fast. Sometimes, for a reason, they are painfully slow, right? And the challenge is you need to do something about it, because if you always assume that they are blazing fast, well, you might build an app like the one that I've got here. Let me start a local app here. And you will see that in practice how it all works. So let me quickly show you that. There you go. I need a browser, but not this browser. I need another browser. It will be on your screen in 3, 2, 1. Let me just grab the right window. All right, cool. I've got it here. Let me grab this URL. All right. And let's have a look at this app, right? So this is an app that we've built that shows some info about the user. It works perfectly fine. You could even say this app is ready to be shipped, right? Or is it though? Let's see how this app would work if the API turned out to be slow. So let's go back to Proxy, config. And let me, in the config, enable a new plugin that we've just introduced named latency. So let me just, for clarity, turn off everything else and just enable the latency here. And let's make latency really slow. So we wanted to make it between second and 10 seconds on every API call, all right? So here, if we go back to Proxy, let's restart it. Proxy, and let's don't fail any calls. We want all calls to pass through to the API. Just wait a little on every call, right? So with that, Proxy is on. Let me now start Chrome, which is attached to Proxy, so that I will not intercept all of the calls on my box, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to be in this call, right? And now pay attention to what you will see. So on the left-hand side, you will see all these calls coming through Proxy, but the most important part is pay attention to the screen. Why? Because for a long time, you will not see anything. This is the worst demo ever. Why? Because you will not see anything. You will, there you go. You can see the calls going on here. Nothing's going on. Is this thing still on? And you will see here, well, it's going to wait for 7 seconds. And now there are some more calls, and they will wait for 6 seconds and 4. And the app is still not communicating anything. It's like you are talking to somebody, and they're just not reacting to you, right? And it will work eventually. But now imagine how badly this app is built. It's not telling the user anything. And now it's tangible. You can see this in action, and you can see this on any API that you use in your app. You can emulate that. And the cool thing is that you can do it for your backend code, front-end code. You can simulate it on any type of app, right? So with that, it gives you more abilities than only the dev tools you've got in browser, which only work with a web app. But if you have a server-side code, well, you wouldn't be able to emulate that quite, right? So with this, you've got the ability to emulate any API call, no matter if it's front-end, back-end, no matter which shape, and basically unravel these spots in your app that are just blank and don't tell the user anything. So this is, again, a great addition, new addition that we've added. And then the final thing that I wanted to show you is, like, we already talked a bit about mocks, right? So the cool thing is that with mocks, you've got the ability to create predictable responses for API calls. And that is great for demo, development, simulating things. But does that mean that you need to, type all of them by hand? Because, like, they aren't small. Like, if you look at them, how they look like, I think we've seen one here. Well, you need to type all of this, like which URL, method, response body, and all of that. So do you need to build it by yourself? Well, in this version, we thought that, you know what, we've got a better way. What if you could record activity in your app? And based on that, we create the mocks for you so that you don't need to type. You just need to click or run your app. So let's see that in action. Let me go back to Proxy. And let me enable the mock generator plugin again that we introduced. So let me disable latency. And let me go here and enable the mock generator plugin. Let me enable that. Let me restart Proxy. And again, let's not fail anything, because in this case, we want the calls to come through so that we get the actually the response from the API, right? So that we can get the data that we then want to use for mocks. All right, so we don't fail anything. And now let's start the recording, because again, we want to intercept the response that we will get from the API. And now let's call, for example, info about me. Okay, so we get the report. Is my my access? I didn't get the access token. Apologies for that. There you go. We are debugging live. Let me grab a new access token because I closed the terminal, so it wasn't stored. So let me do it again. Let me get an access token. Let me reissue the call. There you go. Okay, so now you've got info about me. Let's do another one. Let's do a call to users. All right, so these calls pass through. Let's stop the recording. And now we've got a brand new mock file with the calls that we've issued. So this is the users, and we've got the users that I've got in my tenant, and then another one, me. So this is a response that I've got, and we even have the one call that I failed. It's included there too, and we can remove it or not, like that is up to us. But imagine how cool this is. I haven't typed a character. I just moved through my app, and I was able to create mocks for my app that I can now use and share with everybody on the team. I hope that gives you a good idea of Microsoft 365 Developer Proxy, what it is and what it can do. I would really encourage you to give it a try. It is available at aka.ms/m365/proxy. Give it a try, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you have any feedback, questions, or ideas. Thank you all.
Excellent. Thank you, Waldek. Really, really cool. That is a lot of positive feedback in the chat, and it's such a great tool on helping building experiences and client-side implementation. So really, really cool. Now, let's then move to Shubham to talk about getting started with adaptive card-based loop components. We're right on the schedule. This is looking good.
Thanks all for joining. My name is Shubham Chauhan. I'm a senior product manager working in Microsoft 365 platform. And today we'll be talking about adaptive card-based loop components. So that's a mouthful. Hence, the agenda for today is actually to get started with the context. What's loop? What's loop components? If you're not already familiar, then introduce adaptive card-based loop components. Share what's the end user value and the developer value. Then present a demo. It's a recorded demo because we didn't have much time for a live demo. And then how can you as an end user or as a developer get started? And then a quick recap at the very end. So let's get started. Now, setting context, we all have seen more change in the past few years in the way we work and the technology that enables it. Then probably most people would have seen or probably would see in a generation, and I believe most of you might relate to that. The data which you see right now on the screen is coming from Microsoft's Work Trend Index. It's a survey conducted across 31 countries with 30,000 people or respondents. And here's a very interesting insight which we see from this particular data. We see that on one end, employees want more flexible remote work options, which is 73% of the respondents. But at the same time, we also see that these employees also want more in-person collaboration, which is 67%. This is what we have termed as a hybrid work paradox, where people want the best of both worlds. Again, the data on the right talks about how this further or emphasizes how people are generally overloaded in current hybrid setting. There are a lot more meetings, even though the people have kind of stopped going to offices. And people are also doing a lot more context switching, with 42% of the attendees saying that they are multitasking by sending emails and pinging people over chats while they're still on the call. So this is a summary of what we have termed or coined as a hybrid work paradox. And then in the next slide, we talk about another paradox. And eventually I'll talk about the opportunity which we saw from this. This one is called the productivity paradox, which is essentially coming from the context switching, which I mentioned in the previous slide. According to the research done by many reputed institutes such as Harvard, it turns out that average information worker at a Fortune 500 company toggles between different apps and websites nearly 1,200 times per day. That number might seem huge, but this actually talks about us. This amounts to around 5 weeks per year or 9% of a worker's annual time at work. So all of this toll is coming from context switching. Now, these two paradoxes which I shared, the hybrid work paradox as well as the productivity paradox, Microsoft saw some opportunity in this, and the opportunity we saw is how can we support distributed teams with the need for flexibility and human connection in the hybrid world without uprooting their way of working today. So we don't want people to change entirely the way they work, but how can we build something or provide our users something that they can use it or leverage it as a tool without having to just uproot however they were doing their work earlier. So this is what we termed as the loop opportunity. These are a couple of the values which we want to address through this opportunity, which is through the loop product. The idea is that it will bring people, teams together so that they can work together even when they're apart in a hybrid setting. Secondly, these teams can see everything they need for the success of their projects in a single place. And then thirdly, the content which they see in a single place, it always stays in sync so that whenever people collaborate, they see a single source of truth. This is the Microsoft Loop opportunity. We'll not be talking about all of this, but rather the last pillar, which is the third pillar, which is staying in sync and on track. And this is where adaptive card-based loop components come in. So what are adaptive card-based loop components? Now we're moving to the introduction section. I've just summarized a lot of things in a couple of slides, but I guess there might be a few questions. which we can address offline. So I'll move to adaptive card-based loop components. Adaptive cards, I believe, should be a familiar term in the community. So assuming that adaptive card-based loop components, these are units of productivity which enable users to embed, share, and collaborate on live external content. It can be 3P, it can even be Microsoft like 1P content, which is non-native, across Microsoft 365. And complete tasks in the flow of their work. We'll talk about how this happens through the demo as well. And for the developers, it embodies the build once, work everywhere model that we have for most of our platform capabilities. There are 4 particular values which we talk about, or promises rather, which we talk about while talking about loop components. The first one is live. Live essentially, it means what the word says, that the content should always stay latest, even if there are multiple instances, they remain in sync when updates are made. Second one is actionable. We don't want content to be static. It should not just be a static update which keeps on, which stays live and keeps on updating, but rather we want the end users to complete some task or workflow in line without having to context switch. The third one is embeddable, which means that the content needs to be part of the context, for example, part of the email body or part of the chat over which certain ideas are being discussed. And the last one is portable, which means that the content should be portable across Microsoft 365 hosts that support loop components. And these components should just work, even if these are, let's say, in Teams or Outlook. On the right, we have just 2 examples of Asana, GitHub, and some sample adaptive card-based loop components that we had designed with these partners. But yeah, I think a lot of things will get clear once I present the recorded demo. Sorry, before that, I'll just emphasize quickly on the developer and end user value. The end user value we just covered. The end user should be able to search and share external content from users' app of choice. For example, let's say a user is comfortable working in Outlook. So user should be able to search and share content in Outlook, and should also be able to move the content, let's say, from Outlook to Teams seamlessly. That saves a lot of time, because let's say there's another user which is more comfortable in Teams or in the chat app, then the other user should be able to just come across that content without having to context switch. Thirdly, the user should be able to complete tasks and workflows in line, and the content should always stay live, as we covered in the last slide. Now coming to the developer value, build once, work everywhere is a promise that we have for a lot of the platform capabilities. Adaptive card-based loop components also adhere to the same. We currently have started supporting these loop components in Teams and Outlook. Probably you're already familiar with some first-party loop components, which by which I mean there are a couple of fluid-based loop components, such as the meeting notes, probably, which you have noticed in the Teams meetings, and the loop components which get embedded in the chat, wherein you can collaborate with other users. So those are native loop components. Here we are talking about extensible loop components, which our developers can also build. The loop components stay in sync and automatically work in every additional host app that we enable. So right now, the support is only available for Teams and Outlook. We are right now in preview, and I'll share more details in the later slides. And we are targeting preview in the loop app by the end of this year. But eventually, the goal is that we will start supporting the loop components in the other Microsoft 365 hosts as well. And the content will be easily discovered via other capabilities such as Context IQ, which enables a user to kind of find external content or internal content in context. That's what Context IQ stands for. Now, jumping to the demo, I believe there should be some questions. And this demo, which talks about a project manager trying to complete a task by collaborating with her team members, how she is able to do it by working with a couple of other team members from different roles without having to do a lot of context switching. So
in this demo, we will see how Adele, a product manager at Contoso, is using priority matrix for managing her team's tasks. Adele notices that an important task is missing a due date and decides to follow up with Megan from her team to add the due date. Adele copies the priority matrix link to share the task in Outlook, The link unfurls as an adaptive card-based loop component when pasted in the Outlook email compose menu. Adele has the flexibility to embed the component as a link, if she wants to. Additionally, the shared location control in the header lets her view all the places the component was shared in. Adele types rest of the email and hits send. Upon receiving the email, Megan sees the loop component and updates the due date to Friday without switching context. She then shares the loop component in Teams to follow up on the pending work. Her design manager can update the progress of the task directly in Teams, and the change is automatically reflected across all locations. Thank you.
Yes, so this was a very brief demo which showcases some of the values which we talked about earlier around adaptive card-based loop components. We saw how Adele was able to embed a third-party content, which is Priority Matrix, which is essentially a task management solution, which is not Microsoft. It's a third-party solution, and Adele was able to share that particular task link, which unfurled into an adaptive card-based loop component. Within the email, it was embedded, and then the recipient of the email was able to act upon that particular request, which is making some change in third-party content within Outlook. And then she was also able to follow with the designer for the update on Teams by just copy pasting the link, which again embedded as a loop component in Teams. So a lot of things happened, and you would have noticed that the end users didn't have to really go to the the place wherein the link was shared, which was Outlook, or go to the third-party website or web app to get the action completed. So it's actions like these which can probably be done in context, while we also support functionalities such as task modules and stage view, which could be invoked by a button click on the adaptive card-based loop component. And then that would open the entire web app experience within the context of Teams. So those capabilities are also there. Do check out stage view and task modules, but as part of this demo, we didn't really have it. Then I'll move on to the slide which you'll be more excited about, which is how to get started. So for end users, we are right now actively working with a lot of partners, first party, third party, to enable adaptive card-based loop component experiences. We are in a developer preview right now, and then we announced it in August, and we are seeing some good participation from the developer community as well. Priority Matrix, Zoho SDP, Zoho projects are few partners with whom we have already enabled the experiences in preview. And then on the right side of the line, which I've drawn, we have Jira, we have Proxy, Viva Sales, SAP, and many more partners with whom we are building their first set of loop components. For developers, again, the first thing is that I'll share the developer public preview launch blog post, which happened in August, and also our developer documentation, which you'll find in the blog post as well. The steps would be to go through the documentation. These capabilities right now need a message extension application. I hope few of you would be familiar with what message extensions are. And then there are a couple more capabilities which need to be added for the adaptive cards to be generated, or rather adaptive cards to be branded as a loop component. Then couple of other steps are that you have to create and move your test tenant to the preview environment, share the tenant ID and a screenshot from the admin portal as proof of the admin rights, because right now it's a preview, so we have to enable your test tenant for that preview. So that's the part of the onboarding process, and we will reach out to you and validate the information and onboard you within the next 24 hours. And for any queries, there's this alias AC loops preview help, which you can note down. So that's all the things I had in mind I definitely expect a lot of questions as well, because I did go through a lot of content. I set the context in the very beginning, which talked about the hybrid work paradox and the productivity paradox, and then which led to the loop opportunity. I talked about the loop app and some of the values it presents to the users. It's a way to bring together teams, keeps everything a teams need to complete their project in a single place, and allows them to always stay in sync and easily connect with everyone through a single source of truth. The loop components, which are adaptive card based themselves, are unit of productivity, enabling end users to share, collaborate on live 3P content. They allow end users to work across Microsoft 365 and complete tasks or workflows in context. And for the developers, it embodies a build once, work everywhere model. And then we showed the priority matrix demo, which showcased how these adaptive card-based loop components can be embedded, are actionable within Teams and Outlook to begin with, and can also be ported across different Microsoft 365 hubs. And then we talked about how can an end user try out these experiences, or as a developer, build these experiences. That's all I had for today. Thank you all for attending. And I'll respond to any queries over the chat or offline.
Excellent. Thank you, Shubham, on that one. Really, really cool. We are running a bit late on the schedule, but it's fine. Rather that way than stopping the demo short. So thank you, Ayça. Thank you, Waldek. Thank you, Shubham. Please check the chat for any follow-up questions related on that one. There's a few of them from Elliot at least, which would be good to get sorted out. Now, next week on the 10th of October, we have 3 demos again. Ayça is going to continue the series, which we showed this week, which is again extending that AI integration scenarios together with Microsoft Teams and Microsoft 365 solutions. Ayan is going to talk about the introduction to new Microsoft Teams recording and transcript APIs. So that is a really new thing which came out quite recently. And then Kavish is going to talk about using Power Apps application templates for business critical scenarios. Really, really cool topics next week on 10th of October. Now, if you have any questions after the call or you need help on some of the things related on Microsoft 365, do sign up onto our Discord server at AKMS/community/Discord. There is already close to 600 people in the server, and it's getting more and more active on day-to-day basis, which is awesome. Great way of helping other people in the community. Now, if you have time, we would really value for you your inputs related on these calls. What works, what doesn't work, are the calls important and valuable for you? Please answer on AKMS/community/calls/feedback to let us know your thoughts about these calls. And then the recording will be available within 24 hours at Microsoft 365 Power Platform Community YouTube channel at AKMS/community/videos. That will actually put you in a selection of 3 channels, but from there you can find that right channel. You want to subscribe today on those so you will get notified immediately when the call recording is available. And next time we'll meet at 10th of October, unless you're going to join on the Thursday call this week as well. But that's it for now. Thank you everybody for joining. One more time, thank you for all of the presenters. Thank you for being part of the community. And we'll be back within the next community call. Excellent. Thank you. Bye-bye.